The note was only 5 lines long, found wedged between the pages of a dusty spiral-bound journal hidden in a false-bottom drawer. It read, "Mrs. Keller said I was lying, but what if she heard him too?" By the time authorities realized what it meant, one girl was dead, a teacher's life was in ruins, and the truth had already been buried beneath months of silence, shame, and the whispers of a voice only one girl claimed to hear. Maple Hollow, Illinois. Population 4,301. A town where time moved a little slower, where the high school football team's Friday night wins still made the front page of the Gazette, and where most kids grew up playing in one another's yards, often staying friends long past graduation. Maple Hollow High School had only 422 students. It wasn't perfect, but it was the kind of school where teachers knew your name, and your mother's too. So when 14-year-old Grace Lindell was suspended for persistent classroom disruption, which included whispering, giggling at seemingly nothing, and once reportedly speaking in a different voice, it shocked everyone who knew her. Grace wasn't the kind of kid who got into trouble. Quiet, painfully shy, always scribbling in her notebooks. She lived with her aunt, a school nurse named Janet Morrow, after her parents died in a car crash 2 years prior. Her classmates described her as sweet, but kind of off in her own world. She was, and that world was about to crack wide open. The trouble started in early September. Grace had begun talking to herself, or so said her homeroom teacher, Mrs. Eloise Keller, a strict but respected woman who taught English at Maple Hollow High for nearly 30 years. She'd mutter things under her breath, Keller later told police. At first, I thought she was rehearsing lines from a book, but then it got unsettling. Sometimes she'd stare into corners. She'd smile when no one was talking. And once, she called me by a name I hadn't heard in decades. That name was Eleanor. It happened during a parent-teacher conference with her aunt. I was defending Grace, Janet recalled. I said, "She's grieving. Let her be." But then Grace stood up, looked Mrs. Keller straight in the eye and said, "You lied to Eleanor, too, didn't you?" It chilled the room. Keller turned white as a sheet. The next day, Grace was suspended for a week. Mrs. Keller wrote in the disciplinary file, "Student exhibiting erratic, possibly manipulative behavior. Needs evaluation." But Grace never went back. 3 months later, in January, she was found dead in her bedroom, overdose. Sleeping pills. A note, neatly folded, on her desk. He never left. You just stopped listening. At first, it was ruled a suicide. Tragic, but straightforward. A fragile girl with a traumatic past. But something didn't sit right with Detective Elise Romero, newly transferred from Chicago PD to take care of her ailing mother. Romero met with Janet Morrow. Grace was getting better, the aunt insisted. She was drawing again, reading. She asked for a camera for Christmas. Still, the girl had been acting strangely. Romero requested access to Grace's school files, medical records, and most importantly, her bedroom. That's when she found the journal. Not a diary, a record. Page after page of conversations. G, why don't you let me sleep? H, you told her the truth. Truth comes with a price. G, I'm scared. H, so was Eleanor. Romero circled the name Eleanor, the same name Grace had spoken in class. She started digging. Eleanor Whitmore, 15. Maple Hollow High, class of 1992. Reported missing in October of her sophomore year. Last seen leaving Mrs. Keller's literature class. Her case, still unsolved. When Romero questioned Mrs. Keller, the older woman was composed, until the detective brought up Eleanor's name. She was troubled. She ran away. Keller said, "It was tragic, but we did all we could." Romero wasn't convinced. She pulled old yearbooks. Found Eleanor. Long red hair. A smile like Grace's. The resemblance was uncanny. Then came the breakthrough. In the basement archives of Maple Hollow High, Romero uncovered disciplinary records from 1992, never digitized. Eleanor Whitmore had also been suspended. The reason? Disruptive behavior. Claims of hearing voices. Concerning fixation on teacher-student dynamics. Same language. Same accusations. A pattern was forming. Romero brought in a forensic psychologist. The journal isn't fiction, Dr. Harris said. It's a coping mechanism. Grace was transcribing something, someone she believed was real, whether it was a hallucination or a form of dissociative identity. The voice she called H had deep psychological ties to trauma, possibly inherited or perhaps transferred. Transferred? Romero asked. Kids sometimes carry the weight of unresolved stories, especially in close-knit communities. They become the echo. But what if it wasn't psychological? What if Eleanor was trying to speak, through Grace, in a forgotten crawl space beneath the school stage? Workers stumbled upon a metal box during renovations. Inside, a spiral notebook, badly water-damaged. But some entries were legible. They were Eleanor's. She said I should stop, that it would ruin her career, that no one would believe me anyway. She told me to stay after class. I told her I'd tell someone. She smiled and said, "Go ahead." Mrs. Keller was arrested for obstruction of justice and brought in for formal questioning. She denied any involvement in Eleanor's disappearance, but cracked when presented with the journal and matching handwriting. "I didn't kill her," she said, voice trembling, "but I didn't stop her from leaving. She said she was going to expose me for something that never happened. I thought she'd come back. She never did." Further digging revealed Keller had suppressed several incidents involving students, mostly young girls, who came to her with reports of a male janitor behaving inappropriately in the early 90s. That janitor, Harold Reeves, deceased, died in 1997, never formally charged. Romero believes Eleanor discovered something, maybe even confronted him, and Keller, more concerned with preserving the school's reputation, swept it all under the rug. Grace, unknowingly or not, became the vessel for a story Maple Hollow tried to forget. Her journal became a crucial piece of evidence that reopened Eleanor Whitmore's cold case. Mrs. Keller was fired, then charged with negligent endangerment and obstruction. Though she never confessed to any abuse, public records now link her to multiple cases of misconduct cover-ups. The school built a memorial garden in Grace's name. A plaque beneath an oak tree reads, "For Grace Lindell and Eleanor Whitmore, who were never truly alone." Detective Romero, now head of Maple Hollow PD's cold case unit, still keeps a copy of Grace's journal on her desk. "Some voices," she says, "refuse to be silenced." Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, shocked you, or made you think, let me know in the comments. I read every one. And if you want more stories like this, true, emotional, and full of twists, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell. There's a new one coming soon, and trust me, you won't want to miss it.